Chapter 7, General Physiology. Physiology and Dental System. Physiology is the study of how living things function. It continues beyond the study of anatomy into how parts work, what they do, and why. The body system. The human body has 10 systems. Each system has specific organs within it. Each body system functions. In a healthy human being, all 10 systems are functioning. Skeletal system. There are 206 bones in the human body. For descriptive purposes, skeleton is divided into the axial and appendicular skeletal system. Axial skeleton consists of the skull, the spinal column, ribs, and the sternum. Its function is to protect the major organs of the nervous, respiratory, and circulatory system. The bones of the skull are of primary importance to the system. The appendicular skeleton, it consists of the upper extremities and shoulder girdle plus the lower extremities and pelvic girdle. It protects the organs of digestion and reproduction. A bone is the hard connective tissue that makes up most of the human skeleton. It consists of an organic component, cells and matrix, and an inorganic mineral component. Minerals, mainly calcium and phosphate, give rigidity to the bone. These minerals stored in bone also act as a mineral reservoir to maintain essential blood mineral concentrations in time of inadequate supply in the body. Periosteum, specialized connective tissue covering all bones of the body. It is responsible for the life of the bone and is capable of repair. The outer layer is a network of dense connective tissue containing blood vessels. The inner layer is loose connective tissue containing osteoblasts. Kinds of bone. There's a compact bone, which is hard, dense, and very strong. It forms the outer layer of the bone where it is needed for strength. And cancellous bone. Lighter in weight, but not as strong as compact bone. It is found in the interior of bones. Trabeculae, bony spicules in cancellous bone that form a mesh of intercommunicating space filled with bone marrow. Appear as a web-like structure on radiographs. Bone marrow. Inside the spaces of cancellous bone are two types of bone marrow. Red marrow, which is filled with blood vessels, makes red and white blood cells and platelets, and the yellow marrow. It contains mainly fat cells found primarily in the shaft of long bones. Cartilage. It is tough, yet more elastic than bone. It is found where bones join together. Non-vascular connective tissue. In addition to the ends of bone, cartilage gives form to the nose and the ears. Joints. Areas where two bones come together. Three basic types of joints. Fibrous, which do not move. For example, the sutures of the skull. Sutures mean, if you've ever seen a skeleton, the skeleton looks like it has cracks, like little ridges. Those are the sutures of the skull. Cartilaginous, made of connective tissue and cartilage. For example, the joints between the bones of the vertebrae, and that's what makes your vertebrae connect and being able to flex, to move side to side and to bend back and bend forward. And synovial, movable joints, account for most of the joints in the body. Muscular system. It gives us the ability to stand, walk, run, jump, move our eyes, smile, and frown. It is composed of more than 600 individual muscles. For muscles to make the body move, they must work together. Each muscle consists of muscle tissue, connective tissue, nerve tissue, and vascular blood tissue. The types of muscles. Striated muscles are so named because dark and light bands in the muscle fibers yield a striped or striated appearance, known as skeletal or voluntary muscle. Attached to the bones of the skeleton, it makes bodily motion possible. Smooth muscle. It moves in the internal organs, such as the digestive tract, blood vessels, and secretion ducts leading from glands. Okay. Smooth muscle. Involuntary muscle is under the control of the autonomic nervous system and is not controlled voluntarily. Visceral muscle is so named because it is found in the visceral internal organs except the heart. It is also found in hollow structures such as the digestive and urinary tracts. Cardiac muscles, okay, and cardiac hence the heart, striated in appearance but resembles smooth muscle in action. Cardiac muscle forms most of the walls of the heart, and contraction of this muscle results in the heartbeat. It combines the power of striated voluntary muscles with the steady reliability of smooth involuntary ones. Muscle function. Contraction is the tightening of a muscle, during which it becomes shorter and thicker, and relaxation occurs when a muscle returns to its original form or shape. The muscles of the body are arranged in opposing pairs so that when one contracts, the other relaxes. It is these contrasting actions that make motion possible. Muscle origin, the place where the muscle begins or originates. This is the more fixed attachment, the end of the muscle that is closer to the midline of the body, or both. Muscle insertion, the place where the muscle ends or inserts. It is the more movable end, the portion of the muscle that is further from the midline of the body, or both. The cardiovascular system consists of the following: the circulatory system, which is related to the heart and blood that goes up and down your body, the heart, and the lymphatic system. These systems provide life-sustaining capabilities for the survival of body cells and tissues. So the circulatory system is the two primary functions of the circulatory system are transporting oxygen and nutrients to the cells and transporting carbon dioxide and waste products from the cells, as well as transporting hormones and antibodies throughout the body. And it also serves to regulate body temperature and chemical stability. The heart. Each day, the heart pumps 4,000 gallons of blood at a speed of 40 miles per hour through 70,000 miles of vessels. The heart is a hollow muscle with 4 chambers. Heart size varies from individual to individual, but is generally the same as a closed fist, which means that when you close your fist, that's primarily the size of your heart. The pericardium. The heart is enclosed in a double-walled membranous sac known as the pericardium. Pericardial fluid between the layers prevents friction when the heart beats. Heart chambers. The heart functions as a double pump. The right side pumps blood to the lungs, and the left side sends blood to the rest of the body. The coronary vessels supply blood to the heart muscle. Each side is subdivided into an upper and a lower chamber. Heart valves. One-way valves prevent the backflow of blood and separate the chambers of the heart by opening and closing with each heartbeat. The tricuspid valve is found between the right atrium and the right ventricle. The mitral valve has 2 cusps and lies between the left atrium and the left ventricle. 2 semilunar valves have 3 crescent-shaped flaps. Pulmonary semilunar valve allows blood to flow from the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery. Aortic semilunar valve allows blood flow from the left ventricle into the aorta. Blood flow through the heart. The right atrium receives blood from the superior and inferior vena cava. Blood flows from the right atrium into the right ventricle. The right ventricle receives blood from the right atrium and pumps it into the pulmonary artery, which carries it to the lungs. The left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs through the 4 pulmonary veins. Blood flows from here into the left ventricle. The left ventricle receives blood from the left atrium. Blood then goes to the aorta and is pumped to all parts of the body except the lungs. What are the two primary functions of the circulatory system? The two primary functions of the circulatory system are to transport oxygen to cells and to regulate body temperature. Blood vessels. Arteries are large blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart to all regions of the body. Capillaries are a systemic of microscopic vessels that connect the arterial and venous systems. Veins from a low-pressure collecting system to return the waste-filled blood to the heart. Blood and blood cells. Plasma is a straw-colored fluid that transports nutrients, hormones, and waste products. Plasma is 91% water. Red blood cells contain the blood protein hemoglobin, which plays an essential role in oxygen transport. White blood cells, also known as leukocytes, have the primary function of fighting disease in the body. Blood typing and Rh factor. The safe administration of blood from donor to recipient requires typing and cross-matching. Blood typing is based on the antigens and antibodies found in the blood. The most important classifications are A, AB, B, and O. Patients who receive blood that is incompatible with their own may experience a serious and possibly fatal reaction. Blood typing and Rh factor. The Rh factor is an additional antigen that is present on the surfaces of red blood cells in some individuals. A person whose blood contains the factor is Rh positive. A person whose blood does not contain the factor is Rh negative. Anti-Rh antibodies are not naturally found in plasma as they are in blood types, but they do develop if the patient is exposed to the Rh factor. Lymphatic system. The structures of the lymphatic system are the lymph vessels, lymph nodes, lymph fluid, and lymphoid organs. Drainage vessels absorb excess protein from tissues and return it to the bloodstream. Lymphoid organs contribute to the immune system to assist with destruction of harmful microorganisms. Lymph vessels. Lymph capillaries are thin-walled tubes that carry lymph from the tissue spaces to the larger lymphatic vessels. Similar to veins, lymphatic vessels have valves that prevent the backflow of fluid. Lymph fluid always flows towards the thoracic cavity, where it empties into veins in the upper thoracic region. Specialized lymph vessels called lacteals are located in the small intestine. Lacteals aid in the absorption of fats from the small intestine into the bloodstream. Lymph nodes, small, round, or oval structures that are located in the lymph vessels. They fight disease by producing antibodies. This is part of the immune reaction. Major lymph node sites of the body include cervical, which is in the neck, axillary, under the arms, inguinal, in the lower abdomen, and lymph fluid. Lymphoid organs, tonsils, masses of lymphatic tissue that are located in the upper portion of the nose and throat, where they form a protective ring of lymphatic tissue. Nasopharyngeal tonsils are found in the nasopharynx. Palatine tonsils are located in the oropharynx between the anterior and posterior pillars of the fauces. Lingual tonsils are located in the back of the tongue, and those are the most common ones that you'll see and that some people have removed if they have a lot of throat infections in a year. Lymphoid organs, the spleen. It produces lymphocytes and monocytes, which are important components of the immune system. It also filters microorganisms and other debris not destroyed by the lymphatic system. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the nervous system. The nervous system is the communication system of the body. Instructions and directions are sent out by this system to the various organs in the body. The nervous system can be compared to computer communications, with the brain and spinal cord as the main computer and the nerves as the cables that carry messages to and from this center. The central nervous system, which is also known as the CNS, is the brain and the spinal cord. And then the peripheral nervous system, PNS, is the cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Neurons. The basic function of neurons is to direct communication or nerve impulses. Neurons have the properties of excitability, the ability to respond to stimulus, and conductivity, which refers to transmission of an impulse. Three types of neurons: the sensory neurons, motor neurons, and associative neurons. A synapse is the space between two neurons or between a neuron and a receptor organ. A neurotransmitter is a chemical substance that allows the impulse to jump across the synapse from one neuron to another. Nerves covered with myelin are referred to as white matter. Nerves that do not have the protective myelin sheath make up the gray matter of the brain and the spinal cord. The central nervous system. So the brain is the primary center for the regulation and coordination of the body's activities, and each part of the brain controls different aspects of the body function. The spinal cord carries all of the nerves that affect the limbs and lower part of the body and is the pathway for impulses going to and from the brain. Peripheral nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls unconscious activities such as breathing, heart rate, body temperature, blood pressure, and pupil size. The somatic nervous system controls conscious activities. Respiratory system delivers oxygen to the millions of cells in the body and transports the waste product, carbon dioxide, out of the body. The respiratory system consists of the nose, the paranasal sinuses, the pharynx, the epiglottis, the larynx, the trachea, alveoli, and the lungs. The nose. Air enters the body through the nostrils of the nose and passes through the nasal cavity. The nose is divided by a wall of cartilage called the nasal septum, and that's that little flexible bone in between both of your nostrils openings that some people call the septum piercing when they have that piercing right in the center of the nose. The nose and the respiratory system are lined with mucous membrane, a specialized form of epithelial tissue. Remember in one of the last chapters we spoke about epithelial tissue that's in like the inside of your mouth and your nose. Incoming air is filtered by the cilia, which are thin hairs that are attached to the mucous membrane just inside the nostrils. The pharynx. After passing through the nasal cavity, air reaches the pharynx, which is commonly known as the throat. Three divisions of the pharynx. The nasal pharynx is located behind the nose and above the soft palate. The oral pharynx extends from the soft palate above to the level of the epiglottis below, and the laryngopharynx extends from the level of the epiglottis above to the larynx below. The epiglottis. The oral pharynx and the laryngopharynx serve as a common passageway for food from the mouth and air from the nose. During swallowing, the epiglottis acts as a lid and covers the larynx so that the food does not enter the lungs. You know how sometimes you eat and you start choking, or like you're drinking something and you start choking and you say, oh, it went down the wrong way. Well, it went down the wrong way because the epiglottis did not cover the larynx, so the food goes into the lungs, not down the esophagus like it's supposed to. The larynx, also known as the voice box, it contains the vocal bands, which make speech possible. The larynx is protected and is held open by a series of cartilaginous structures. The largest cartilage forms the prominent projection in front of the neck called the Adam's apple, and obviously it's more prominent in men. The trachea. Air passes from the larynx to the trachea. The trachea extends from the neck into the chest, directly in front of the esophagus. It is protected and held open by a series of C-shaped cartilaginous rings. Okay, the lungs. The trachea divides into two branches called bronchi. Each bronchus leads to a lung where it divides and subdivides into increasingly smaller branches. Bronchioles are the smallest of these branches. Alveoli are tiny grape-like clusters found at the end of each bronchiole. Exchange of gases between the lungs and the blood takes place in the alveoli. The digestive system. The role of the digestive system is to provide the body with nutrients, water, and electrolytes necessary for life. The digestive system functions under involuntary control because you cannot control the passing of the food through the intestines, you cannot control the passing of the food through the esophagus, and you cannot control the distribution of nutrients that your body distributes. When they distribute nutrients and vitamins and from what the stuff that you eat, and then it gets rid of the waste. That's involuntary control. Digestive process. Ingestion occurs when food is taken into the mouth. Digestion begins in the mouth as food is masticated, which means chewing, with saliva and then swallowed. Movement. Chewed food is subjected to peristalsis. Peristalsis is the rhythmic wave-like contractions that move the food through the digestive tract, and this is involuntary. Your body does that on its own. Absorption. Nutritional elements in the gastrointestinal tract pass through the lining of the gastrointestinal tract into the bloodstream. And then elimination. In the large intestine, solid byproducts of digestions are eliminated from the body in feces. Structures of the digestive system. The major structures of the digestive system are the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. The endocrine system. The endocrine system consists of ductless glands and tissues that help regulate the body's activities. The glands secrete hormones directly into the blood. These hormones affect metabolism, growth, and development. The hormones are secreted directly into the bloodstream, not through a duct. Endocrine glands. Thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, ovaries, testes, pituitary gland, pancreas, and the adrenal medulla. The urinary system. The urinary system is also known as the excretory system. Its principal function is to maintain fluid volume and composition of the body fluids. Waste products leave the body in the form of urine, and the needed substances are returned to the blood. So the organs of the urinary system are the kidneys, are the site of formation of urine, which carries waste materials away from the blood. The ureters transport the urine from the kidney, and the ureters are like little skinny tubes that go from the kidneys into your bladder. The bladder stores urine until it can be eliminated, and the urethra is the conduit through which the bladder is emptied during the process of urination. Integumentary system. The skin is the body's first line of defense against disease. Functions of the skin system include: it helps regulate body temperature so it can keep you cool and warm. It provides a barrier that prevents bacteria from entering the body, hence the hair. Excretes liquids and salts in the form of sweat. Provides sensitivity to touch. Uses ultraviolet rays from the sun to convert chemicals into vitamin D necessary for absorption of calcium. Skin structures. The skin is composed of different layers, including the following: the epidermis, which is the outer layer of the skin, and it has no blood supply of its own. The dermis, which contains many free nerve endings and receptors, which allow for detection of touch, temperature, and pain. And subcutaneous fat. It's a layer of loose connective tissue that anchors the skin to underlying organs. It insulates the body against heat loss and cushions underlying organs. Skin appendages. The hair, which is enclosed in a follicle and consists of a root and a shaft. Nails, which contains a root and a body. Glands, which are sebaceous glands. Sudoriferous glands, and apocrine sweat glands. The female reproductive system. The external is the mons pubis, the labia majora and minora, the vulva, and the clitoris. Internally, you have the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the vagina. The male reproductive system produces and transports sperm. In the male, several organs serve as part of both the urinary tract and reproductive system. This system consists of the excretory ducts, the testes, the prostate, and seminal vesicles. Interaction among the 10 body systems. Body systems do not operate independently, exert important effects on each other, and something happening to one system tends to affect other systems. That's why sometimes when you have some type of disease, your system starts to shut down, one starts to shut down and malfunction, and then the next system and the next system, and so forth.